and here is to tell about some of those conversations. As I mentioned, Joe Boland, he's the Chief Mission Officer for Catholic Extension
There
Society.
He is.
Joe, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Joe.
Let's start off. What has impressed you the most as you talk to some of these young Catholic converts that you've seen and talked to?
Yeah, so we've all read the stories. There's been this influx of new converts, particularly young converts. And so I've been going across the country to many of the ministries that are supported by Catholic Extension Society, talking to these young people, really trying to understand it. And the thing that has just absolutely impressed me the most is the rigor of these young people when it comes to their faith, their quest for knowledge. It's not a fundamentalism. It really is this faith-seeking understanding, and it's such a beautiful thing for me to watch young people effortlessly quoting the fathers of the church, John Chrysostom, Ignatius of Antioch, Augustine of Hippo. And so I think for many of these young people, what I've understood is, yeah, maybe it was the ultimate frisbee and the free food that got them in the door. But there was certainly something of greater substance that has really kept them there and has continued to speak to their intellect, to their mind, and to their heart that has led them to this conversion into the faith.
You know, Joe, just a few weeks ago, here in our own chapel at Catholic TV, I baptized, received into the church, obviously, and confirmed and gave First Holy Communion to a young woman, and she came to appreciate the Catholic Church through her friends and this family. And so they, catechized her, and then and we brought her into the church. It was just a beautiful thing. But given what you know about just the epidemic of loneliness, how do you think young Catholics feel fulfilled by the community, the oneness that the Catholic Church exhibits?
Yeah, everywhere I go, this notion of community is a huge factor for these young people. And you said it, there is an epidemic of loneliness. There's certainly that we know that this is the age of anxiety, the anxious generation. And you hate to pathologize young people like that, but we know these are real struggles that they're facing. And when they come into the church, every young person who I've met have talked about how wonderful it is to them to come into a place where they feel like they belong, where they experience community, where they experience support, where they can interact with other young people of faith. And so I think we can't discount the real power and the draw that community is for young people as they come into the church.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned some of their knowledge of the church fathers too, but also hear that young people are particularly drawn to the sacraments as well. And maybe if you could share with us your experience about what they tell you about their experiences with the sacraments.
They do. They not only appreciate the sacraments of the church, but what I've found is they also appreciate the sacramentality of the church as well. And I think my theory on that is, we're living in a very virtual age, a digital age, and there's something to be said for signs, for symbols, for things that are very, very tangible. And so when I meet with young people, almost all of them can wax eloquently about their love for the Eucharist. It's something very beautiful for us cradle Catholics to hear them talk about their love for the Eucharist, how they experience Jesus through the sacrament. But I also know that they really, really appreciate just the overall sacramentality of the Catholic Church. I was talking to a young priest, Father Joe Walsh. He runs a university ministry out at the University of Nevada, and he has seen exponential growth at Sunday Mass. And what he tells me is that the Mass that has the greatest attendance is the Mass where he uses the most bells and smells, where there's lots of incense. And that somehow that is really, really speaking to the hearts, the imaginations of our young people. And so I think we really have to appreciate not only the sacraments, but the sacramentality of the Catholic Church speaks to our young people in this virtual and in this digital age.
Just last week, I was at an ordination of 12 new priests in Omaha, Nebraska, and the cathedral was packed with young people and young families. A lot of smells and bells, so I get what you're saying. Hey, by the way, this is a question I've been dying to ask somebody, so I'm going to ask you. Because I understand Catholic Extension had just recently a private audience with Pope Leo a couple weeks ago, I think. Do you think that the fact that we have an American Pope who speaks like we do, if you know what I mean, is that potentially a factor in young people being attracted to the Catholic Church?
I've been asking this question everywhere I go. What role does the Holy Father, the fact that we have an American Pope, what kind of influence does that have in your faith journey? And while I'm not ready to say that there's causality yet, what every young person has told me, especially young converts, is that there's a great deal of enthusiasm, that they are so excited about Pope Leo. They really connect with him. And I think the fact that, he speaks our language, he's from our homeland, he knows our culture, are things that really, really resonate with our young people. And while we were there in Rome, in the Vatican with him, a member of our delegation was actually a young person who is receiving support from Catholic Extension. She has a scholarship at the University of Notre Dame. She's the youngest employee in her diocese, which is the Diocese of Lexington, Kentucky. And she just walked up to the Holy Father and she said, "Thank you for the way you are inspiring my generation." And he took that to heart and he said, "Thank you." He said, "I'm so glad to see the young people here." So I believe there is great enthusiasm among our young people from what they tell me with our Holy Father, Pope Leo.
And what do you think, Joe, for the church, and what do you think we can learn from this moment as more young people come to the faith, and how can, I guess, we can nourish them too as they start to question and come towards the faith?
Yeah, well, it seems to me we have two options. One option is we can just take this moment for granted. The second option is that we can really stop and reflect and learn from this moment, listen to these young people, and more than just listen, really understand how can we build around them? How can we take the enthusiasm, the faith, the knowledge of these young people coming into the church in droves, and really build the church around them and use that enthusiasm for the good of the church, for the good of the faith. And I think that the latter option is the preferred one. One of the things we love to say at Catholic Extension Society is that the greatest moments in church history have always been moments when young people were at the forefront, when young people were at the center of the church. And maybe we're at one of those moments right now and it's unfolding before us. So hopefully we can, as a people of God, really understand what the Spirit is telling us and to really take advantage of this moment and build around our young people.
Great. Well, Joe, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time once again. We love having you on the show, and you've given us a lot of hope because of the many young people who are seeing both community, sacramentality, and the presence of Jesus in the church. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.